Hi, I'm Dr. Will Horton, and today, the day before one of the biggest days of my life, St. Patrick's Day, because that's the day 33 years ago, I was given the opportunity to make a change in my life that's rewarded me exponentially, because that was the day I managed to give up an addiction that was destroying my life. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Today, I'd like to talk about goals and how to set goals and what they really mean. I usually start when I talk about goals. I always quote that study that everyone quotes. I've heard Zig Ziglar talk about it. I think Jim Rohn and a few others, where they talk about there was a study done at an Eastern University, probably Harvard or Yale, where they said these people that wrote down their goals were so many times more likely to be successful. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that study never happened. In fact, I fell for it. I put it in a book. I talked about it for years, but it's just not true. It just doesn't happen. And I remember someone says when they tracked down one of the earliest proponents of that, they said, well, too bad it didn't happen because that result was many people started writing down their goals and got successful. Well, now we do have some news. Dr. Gail Matthews, she was a psychology professor at Dominican University in California. Well, she actually did that kind of study. And she found that 42% of the people are more likely to achieve their goals and dreams simply by writing them down. So that really does mean that you can transform those goals and dreams if you write your goals down and you share them, but you have to share them in a very specific way, which we'll talk about. Because this is really based on how your brain works. Now, she didn't get into this, but this is what I think. First of all, it trains your brain to do one thing, which is look for something in the real world. We know it in the NLP and the hypnosis world as your reticular activating system. That part of your brain that when you get a target, it will find it. I always use the example, if you ever wanted a new car, suddenly you'll see that car everywhere you look. I know a friend of mine, she really likes Gucci handbags, and she can tell the difference between a real or a fake and all this other stuff. So it's based on how your brain works. When you give your mind a clear, specific goal, which we'll get into, you're much more likely to go and find it. It also taps into the right and left hemisphere. When you're thinking about it, it's one aspect of your brain, but when you write it down, you have to use a different aspect. So it uses cross-hemispheric activation, as they call it. So again, it makes your brain much more likely to help you achieve the goal. When you add that in with your reticular activating system, you're much more likely to succeed. And it sends that signal to every cell of your body that you're serious. So just the act of writing it down gives you a powerhouse of things. But you have to set goals first and foremost that motivate you and only you. So when you set your goals for yourself, it's important that they're your goals, not what society says, not what your family says, not what anyone else says. They have to be your goals, because this is what gives you that motivation, that drive to really grow. And you set goals that are high priorities in your life, because if it's a real priority in your life, you begin to make it a must. It's not like I want it to happen. If one of your goals is to get in shape, there's a difference saying, I want to get in shape, it'll be healthy, it'll be this, then I must get in shape. And then you have to write down very specifically, not just what this goal is, but what will this goal do for you? If it's to make more money, great, that's wonderful. And your brain will help you start to find it, but it'll be even more effective if you know what that goal will do for you. Again, if you say, I want to get in shape, well, what will that do for you? Will it give you better dating opportunities? Will it give you more energy? And if so, what will you do with that energy? You want to make this goal as lively and as important as you can for you, right? Because this is the thing you really want to drive for. Because what you want to work on next is what they call a SMART goal. It has to be specific, has to be measurable and meaningful, right? And motivational for you. It has to be attainable and achievable. So is it a real goal? So again, if it's a huge goal, if it's a really huge goal, well, what's some of the smaller goals that'll get you there? If you want to get in really good shape and you're 100 pounds overweight, well, first you want to look at, getting your height-weight proportion down correctly. Then you can work on getting in really great shape. So it has to also be realistic, reasonable, and rewarding for you. And lastly, it has to be testable. That's why we call these SMART goals. Specific, significant, meaningful and measurable, attainable, achievable, realistic. Then it's testable. Now this helps you get things. And then the last thing you want to do again is go back and put some more juice. I always love the term juice, because if you've got juice in your goal, you're much more likely to be successful. And remember, that most people fail in life not because of ability or brains or skill, but it's because that they don't have the energies organized into a specific goal. So what I want you to do is put these down, write them down, be specific, be measurable. And again, as Dr. Gail Matthews pointed out, you're much more likely to achieve them because you're activating different hemispheres of your brain. Then you want to share them. But this is very important. You only want to share them with people that will support you. And again, a couple of years ago, I wrote a big article, turned into a small ebook, about why friends and family are the ones that usually sabotage your success the most. We think they'd be the most supportive, but in the long run, they may be your biggest saboteurs. Why? Because if you're really changing your life, if you're going toward a goal, you're getting rich, you're getting a new career, you're doing things to make yourself happy, all of those people around you that would love to make a change, but they don't have the guts, they don't have the intestinal fortitude to go and do these goals, right? If they're threatened by these, I guess is the term I'm trying to say. And so then what happens, they're going to do everything they can to keep you miserable, because the old saying is misery loves company. So what I want you to do is share them only with people that will specifically encourage your goals. This is where it's better to keep it to yourself. As one great person said, you pray in private, you'll be rewarded openly. So some of these goals you want to just keep to yourself. Others you can share with specific people who you know will really encourage you and celebrate you. One of my other favorite sayings is, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And I'm always judging people. We say we don't judge people, but we do. I'm always judging people. When you see someone get a windfall, they invent something, they write a best-selling book, they get a keynote speech in our world, or something really great happens to them. The people I'm around, what is their first response? Is it like, why that, why is it negativity? Or is it, hey, great for them, I think it's wonderful. I remember I was watching a football game with a person in our field, supposedly motivated and encouraging, and in fact, they were a prosperity person, and they talked about it. Anyway, we were watching this football game, and what happened was, I forget who it was, but they mentioned their contract. They were one of the highest paid people in professional football at their position. And I remember the person next to me says, nobody's worth that kind of money. And I remember thinking, as I'm looking at him, going, whoa. If you honestly believe that someone is not worth that kind of money, that lets you know, it lets me know that you have some issues about money. Obviously, the guy's worth that kind of money. Somebody's paying them that kind of money. I've heard that statement about movie stars. Well, no one's worth that kind of money. Well, if someone's paying them, they're worth it. Because trust me, if all of us business people know, I'm not going to pay you that much money unless I'm making something on the back end. So yes, they're worth that kind of money. So again, you have to be very careful with the people you share your goals with. So if you're really into it, you got to have some guts, write it down, and then by sharing it, it also raises the stakes, because people are going to be looking to you to see what those goals are. Are you fulfilling them? Are you doing those? So if you got the guts, try sharing them with someone that'll support you. I know recently I wrote down some of my goals, and I put them on one of my e-zines. And it talked about one of my goals is to get to 10% body fat. First I picked a body weight, and then I realized, well, the body weight's not as important as body fat. It's to be to 10 to 12% body fat. Then it was to finish my screenplay and start the process to get it produced. Have my addiction program totally operating at full capacity. Buy my ranch in Sarasota, between 5 to 15 to 25 acres. Clear 7 figures in the next 12 months. Do a few more keynotes. And on a personal note, learn how to act and film seamlessly to be able to transition from stage acting to screen acting. Well, those are some big goals, and I put them out there. And it was funny because, again, I train people in the worlds of hypnosis, NLP, psychology, and some very motivated people, some very successful people. But I was surprised, or shall I say, I wasn't really surprised, when several people wrote me for my own good that, getting to that body fat level, 10 to 12% at our age, is not healthy. So again, someone that should be motivating, because I know they help people lose weight and all this, and yet they're contacting me saying that may not be a healthy goal. And I'm like, interesting. And then the people I were paying note to are the ones that says, well, what are you going to do to get there? And if you actually fed back what I just told you, is a what would getting to that body fat do for you, Will? Why do you want that? What's the result? What's the benefit? And well, energy, this vanity. I just want to do it because people telling me I can't do it. Same with some other things that I want to do. So they fed it back to me. That's the kind of people you want to share it with. So today it was just a little blurb on goals and how you work with them and what you do. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different and sending that out. So I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a